Hello everyone, very warm welcome to ITLS Academy. In today's lecture, we are going to deal with viruses, the most the most exciting creatures of our environment. These are most dynamic in nature and we are going to study viruses in detail within our upcoming topics and in this particular topic also. So let's start with viruses. First of all, introduction. Following the demonstrations by Koch and his colleagues that anthrax, tuberculosis, and diphtheria were caused by bacteria, it was thought that similar organisms would in time be shown to be responsible for all infectious diseases. That time it gradually became obvious, however, that for a number of important diseases, no such bacterial cause could be established. Infectious material from a case of rabies, for example, could be passed through special filters which held back all particles of bacterial size, and the resulting bacteria free filter still proved to be capable of inducing rabies when inoculated into a susceptible animal. The term virus had up until this time been used quite indiscriminately to describe any agent capable of producing disease. So, these filter passing agents were originally called filterable viruses. Group of microorganisms different in structure and method of replication from all others. These are the microorganisms, that is viruses are the microorganisms that have had different structures and different methods of replications. These were very different from normal replications in bacteria, or we can say from the yeast and molds, etc. General properties of viruses. Although viruses are thought as particle and as living also, these viruses exist in two varying forms. These can exist as particle and also these can exist as living. If these viruses are attached on any non-living surface, so they behave as non-living organism and behave as particle nature. On the other hand, when these microorganisms enter any living cell, they start replicating and they start to produce their new progenies and start to cause infections. Actually, viruses need any living thing to replicate their genome. They cannot replicate on their own. So, let's start with general properties of viruses. All forms of life, animal, plants, and even bacterial are susceptible to infection by viruses. Animals, plants, and bacteria all can be infected with viruses. Three main properties distinguish viruses from their various host cells. These properties are size, nucleic acid content, and metabolic capabilities. As we know that size of bacteria is very minute, even they can pass through the bacterial filter. So the size is very minute. And nucleic acid content, most of the living organism contains DNA and RNA both, but in the case of viruses they contain either DNA or RNA. It is very rare that both DNA and RNA exist at the same time in the same virus. And the metabolic capabilities of the viruses are varying degree. Size, nucleic acid content, and metabolic capabilities are the basic properties responsible for the detection of viruses from other same type of microorganism. Let's discuss these properties. First of all, we are going to discuss size of the virus. They are mostly, therefore, beyond the limit of resolution of light microscope and have to be visualized with the electron microscope. Viruses are so minute that can't even see with light microscope. To visualize the viruses, we use electron microscope. Electron microscope shows the size and structure of the viruses, whereas a bacterial cell like a staphylococcus might be 1000 nanometer in diameter. The largest of the human pathogenic virus, the pox virus, measures only 250 nanometer along their longest axis, and the smallest virus is poliovirus is only 28 nanometer in diameter. We can easily see the minute size of viruses, as largest virus pox virus is only 250 nanometer, while the smallest poliovirus is only 28 nanometers in diameter. Next property is nucleic acid content. Viruses contain only a single type of nucleic acid, either DNA or RNA. It is rare when DNA and RNA comes together in case of viruses. Another property is metabolic capabilities. Virus particles have no metabolic machinery of their own. They need any living host for the replication of their genome. They are obligatory intracellular parasite. Here, obligatory means that they cannot survive without any host. They need any host for the replication, and they work as intracellular parasite, only growing within other living cells. whose energy and protein producing system they redirect for the purpose of manufacturing new viral components. They cannot synthesize their own protein and nucleic acid from inanimate laboratory media and thus fail to grow on even nutritious media. So, the production of new virus particles generally result in death of the host cell as they need the cell of the host for their replication, so they generally result in death of the host cell. And as the particles spread from the cell to cell, disease can become apparent in the host. Structure of viruses. In essence, virus particles are composed of a core of genetic material, either RNA or DNA, surrounded by a coat of protein. We can say that viruses, if we assume that if this is our virus, so this would be our DNA or RNA, or we can say this would be our genetic material, and surrounding it there exists a protein coat. This is the basic structure of the viruses. The function of the coat is to protect the viral gene from inactivation by adverse environmental factors such as tissue nuclease enzymes, which would otherwise digest a naked viral chromosome during its passes from cell to cell within a host. In a number of viruses, that coat also plays an important part in the attachment of the virus to receptor on susceptible cell, and in many bacterial viruses the coat is further modified to facilitate the insertion of the viral genome through the tough structural barrier of the bacterial cell wall. The protein coat of the virus helps virus to enter into the bacterial cell. We can say if it is an bacterial cell and this is our bacteriophage. So the protein coat of the bacteria will help to insert its genetic material into bacterial cell. The viral protein coat or capsid is composed of a large number of subunits, the capsomeres. The protein coat of viruses is known as the capsid. If this is the genetic material of the virus and this is the protein coat of virus, then this covering would be known as capsid. This capsid is composed of the capsomeres. This subunit structure is a fundamental property and is important from a number of aspects. Number 1, it leads to considerable economy of genetic informations. As we know, the outer coat of viruses is made of capsid. Capsid formed by the joining of monomer units known as capsomeres. So, the capsid is a polymer structure of the virus. So, we can say that The economy of genetic informations of virus can be illustrated by considering some of the smaller viruses which might, for example, have as a genome a single strand of RNA composed of about 3000 nucleotides and a protein code with an overall composition of some 20,000 amino acid units. Assuming that one amino acid is coated for by a triplet of nucleotides, such a coat in the form of a single large protein would require a gene some 60,000 nucleotides in length. If, however, the viral coat comprised repeating units, each composed of about 100 amino acids, only a section of about 300 nucleotides long would be required to specify the capsid protein, leaving genetic capacity for other essential functions. Such a subunit structure permits the construction of the virus particles by a process in which the subunit self-assemble into structures held together by non-covalent intermolecular forces as occurs in the process of crystallization. This eliminates the need for a sequence of enzyme catalyzed reactions for coat synthesis. It also provides an automatic quality control system as subunits which may have major structural defects fail to become incorporated into complete particles. Point 3 is the subunit composition is such that the intracellular release of the viral genome from its coat involves only the dissociation of non-covalently bonded subunits rather than the degradation of an integral protein sheath. In addition to the protein coat, many animal virus particles are surrounded by a lipoprotein envelope which has generally been derived from the cytoplasmic membrane of their last host cell. X-ray diffraction data and electron micrographs have revealed that 16 subunits per turn of the helix project from a central axial hole that runs the length of the particle. The nucleic acid does not lie in this hole but is embedded into ridges on the inside of each subunit, and this describes its own helix from one end of the particle to the other. The geometry of the capsomeres results in their assembly into particles exhibiting one of two different architectural styles, that is helical or icosahedral symmetry. It is now known, however, to occur in a number of animal virus particles. Here one point is missed. I am going to discuss In addition to the protein coat, many animal virus particles are surrounded by a lipoprotein envelope, which has generally been derived from the cytoplasmic membrane of their last host cell. Here comes the helical symmetry of viruses. Some virus particles have their protein subunits symmetrically packed in a helical array, forming hollow cylinders. At each of the 12 vertices or corners of these icosahedral particle is a capsomere called a penton, which is surrounded by 5 neighboring units. Each of 20 triangular faces contain an identical numbers of capsomeres, which are surrounded by 6 neighbors and called as hexons. The tobacco mosaic virus is the classical example. Helical symmetry was thought at one time to exist only in plant viruses. The influenza and mumps viruses, for example, which were first seen in early electron micrograph as roughly spherical particles, have now been observed as enveloped particles. Within the envelope, the capsids themselves are helically symmetrical and appear similar to the rods of TMV, except that they are more flexible and are wound like coils of rope in the center of the particle. Next is icosahedral symmetry. The viruses in this architectural group have their capsomeres arranged in the form of regular icosahedra, that is, polygons having 12 vertices, 20 faces, and 30 sides. In plant and bacterial viruses exhibiting this type of symmetry, the hexon and pentons are composed of the same polypeptide chain. In animal viruses, however, they may be distinct proteins. The number of hexons per capsid varies considerably in different viruses. Adenovirus, for example, is constructed from 240 hexons and 12 pentons, while the much smaller poliovirus is composed of 20 hexons and 12 pentons. The effect of chemical and physical agents on viruses. Heat is the most reliable method of virus disinfection. Most human pathogenic viruses are inactivated following exposure at 60 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes. The virus of serum hepatitis can, however, survive this temperature for up to 4 hours. Viruses are stable at low temperatures and are routinely stored at -40 to -70 degrees centigrade. Some viruses are rapidly inactivated by drying, others survive well in desiccated state. Ultraviolet light inactivates viruses by damaging their nucleic acid and has been used to prepare viral vaccines. These facts must be taken into account in the storage and preparation of viral vaccines. Viruses that contain lipid are inactivated by organic solvents such as chloroform and ether. Those without lipid are resistant to these agents. This distinction has been used to classify viruses. Many of the chemical disinfectants used against bacteria, example phenol, alcohol, and quaternary ammonium compounds, have minimal virucidal activity. The most generally active agents are chlorine, the hypochlorites, iodine, aldehydes, and ethylene oxide. Virus host cell interactions. The precise sequence of events resulting from the infection of a cell by a virus will vary with different virus host systems, but they will they will be variations of four basic themes. Number 1, multiplication of the virus and destruction of the host cell. Number 2 is elimination of the virus from the cell and the infection aborted without a recognizable effect on the cells occurring. Point 3 is survival of the infected cell unchanged except that it now carries the virus in a latent state. Survival of the infected cell in a dramatically altered or transformed state. For example, transformation of a normal cell to one having the properties of a cancerous cells. Bacteriophages. Till now, we have studied the properties, structures of the viruses. Now, we are going to discuss a particular type of virus. The name of the virus is bacteriophage. Bacteriophage is divided into bacteria and phage. We can say that bacteriophage name is given by the bacteria and phage means virus. When virus and bacteria comes together, they forms bacteriophages. Bacteriophages are the viruses that can attack the bacterial cells. So, let's discuss bacteriophages in detail. Bacteriophages, or as they are more simply termed phages, are viruses that have bacteria as their host cell. Bacteriophages use bacteria as their host cell and they replicate into bacterial cells and forms their progeny. The name was first given by D. Harley to an agent which he found could produce lysis of the dysentery bacillus Shigella shiga. D. Harley was convinced that he had stumbled across an agent with tremendous medical potential. His phase could destroy Shigella in broth culture, so why not in the dysenteric gut of the humans? Similar agents were found before long which were active against the bacteria of many other diseases, including anthrax, scarlet fever, cholera, and diphtheria, and attempts were made to use them to treat these diseases. It was a great disappointment, however, that phase, so virulent in their antibacterial activity in vitro, proved important in vivo. A possible exception was cholera, where some success seems to have been achieved, and cholera phase were apparently used by the medical corps of the German and Japanese armies during the Second World War to treat his disease. Since the development of antibiotics, however, phage therapy has been abandoned. Interest in bacterial viruses did not cease with the demise of phage therapy. They proved to be very much easier to handle in the laboratory than other viruses and had conveniently rapid multiplication cycle. They have therefore been used extensively as the experimental model for elucidating the biochemical mechanism of viral replication. A vast amount of information has been collected about them, and many of the important advances in molecular biology, such as the discovery of the mRNA or messenger RNA, the understanding of the genetic code, and the way in which genes are controlled have come from work on phage bacterium system. It is probable that all species of bacteria are susceptible to phages. We can say that most of the bacterial species are attacked by the bacteriophages. Any particular phase will exhibit a marked specificity in selecting host cell, attacking only organism belonging to a single species. A Staphylococcus aureus phase, for example, will not infect Staphylococcus epidermidis cells. In most cases, phages are in fact strain specific, only being active on certain characteristic strains of a given species. Most phages are tadpole-shaped structures which heats with functions as containers for the nucleic acid and tails which are used to attach the virus to its host cell. On the basis of the response they produce in their host cells, phases can be classified as virulent or temperate. Virulent phases are those which are capable of causing disease. Infections of a sensitive bacterium with a virulent phase results in the replication of the virus. After replication, there is lysis of the cell and release of new infectious progeny phase particles. Temperate phases can produce this lytic response, but they are also capable of a symbiotic response in which the invading viral genome does not take over the direction of cellular activity. This includes the cell survive the infection and the viral nucleic acid becomes incorporated into the bacterial chromosome. After incorporation of viral nucleic acid into bacterial chromosome, it is termed as prophase. Cells carrying viral gene in this way are referred to as lysogenic. Here, a picture of the bacteriophage is shown. You can see that structure of the bacteriophage is made up of three parts: head, tail and flagella. The head part of the bacteriophage contains its genetic material, that is DNA or RNA. This is extended tail sheath. Tail is connected to the head by a portion which is known as neck. Neck is the joint of head and tail. From the end of the tail, a plate is attached which is known as basal plate. From the basal plate, there are protrudings which are known as tail fibers. Tail fibers are the part of bacteriophage which helps them to attach with the surface of bacterial cell. There are 6 tail fibers found in bacteriophage. These are, you can see in the diagram as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. These are the 6 tail fibers which help in the attachment of phage to the bacterial cell. Here the joining portion of the head and tail is known as collar. Collar attaches the head and tail part. You can see that here is the empty head of the bacteriophage is shown. In this figure, you can see that phage is having its genetic material, either DNA or RNA. Although we can say that bacteriophage have DNA as their genetic material. At the time of attachment of bacteriophage to the bacterial cell, these tail fibers help cells attach to the bacterial cell, and after attachment, tail spikes attach to the bacterial cell. After attachment of these fibers, tail core exposed, and this tail core helps the bacteriophage DNA move into bacterial cell. After moving the genetic material into bacterial cell, the head of the bacteriophage becomes empty. Few points for the bacteriophage are written over here. You can study one by one. Okay, let's discuss these points. The dimensions of the phase heads vary from the large T even groups of the E. coli phases. The bacteriophages are divided into even and odd groups. The head of even groups of phages vary 60 into 90 nanometer to the much smaller ones as 30 into 30 nanometer of certain bacillus phages. So you can see that bacillus phages are too small. While the majority of phages have double-stranded DNA, the genetic material of bacteriophage is double-stranded DNA. So the phages are DNA viruses. As their genetic material, double-stranded virus is present in bacteriophages. Some of the very small icosahedral and helical phages have single-stranded DNA or RNA. Exceptions also exist here, that some icosahedral symmetry viruses and some of the helical phases also have single-stranded DNA or RNA as their genetic material. The tails of the bacteriophage vary in length from 15 to 200 nanometer and can be quite complex structure. The tails of the bacteriophage are quite complex structure because they have to penetrate bacterial cell wall that is made up of peptidoglycan. Peptidoglycan is a very hard material, so and these phages have to penetrate the cell wall of bacteria, so they are very complex structures and they have the ability to penetrate the bacterial cell wall and help the enter the DNA of virus into the bacterial cell. So thank you very much guys for watching this session. This session was particularly on the basics of the viruses. We have studied in this lecture the structures of the virus, properties of viruses and various other things, their various forms, that is helical, icosahedral, etc. we have covered in this lecture. In this lecture, we have also started bacteriophage. Although bacteriophage is not complete yet, we will discuss the the growth cycles of the bacteriophage in our next lecture. The growth cycles of the bacteriophage, that is lytic and lysogenic cycles, are a large part of the bacteriophage. So these cannot be completed in single lecture, so I will discuss those parts in detail in our next lecture. There was a basic introduction of the bacteriophage that was mandatory, and I put that slides in this particular lecture. So we will discuss next bacteriophage and many other viruses in our next lectures. Thank you very much guys for watching this session. You can subscribe ITLS Academy on YouTube, and also you can get it on Google Play Store. Thank you.